Tempers flaring at minicamp for the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. I'm Jim Basketball with the latest ESPN headlines. Among the players involved, $56 million cornerback Richard Sherman. We are joined on the phone by Terry Blount, who covers the Seahawks for ESPN.com. And Terry, there were some big names involved here. Earl Thomas as well, Percy Harvin later in practice as well. What ignited the altercations?
Yeah, Jim, it was a very spirited practice, to say the least, but it started the play before the big fight, and that was when Earl Thomas was covering Brian Walters on an out pattern, and Walters fell as he caught the ball and hit his shoulder, and Thomas appeared to fall on top of him as he was covering him very closely. Now, these are non-tackling drills, of course, but they do have run into each other and hit each other. And Doug Baldwin, one of the Seahawks receivers, took offense to that. He was very mad, felt like Thomas deliberately ran into Walters. Walters was hurt on the play. And then there was a lot of confrontation, talk back and forth between the defensive backs and receivers. So on the very next play, Richard Sherman is playing press coverage with receiver Phil Bates. And as they snapped the ball, they grabbed each other and never stopped grabbing each other. Sherman pulled Bates' helmet off. They started wailing on each other. Punches were thrown. They both landed punches to each other's head. Percy Harvin then was the third man into it and pushing Sherman back. Marshawn Lynch tried to pull Harvin off. And
he was playing peacemaker, Lynch. Lynch playing peacemaker. That? Lynch was playing a little peacemaker even though he wasn't practicing in a sense.
Yeah, he's out there just watching, and he's trying to break up the fight. But basically it was like a bench-clearing brawl at that point. Everyone was in it. All the sidelines emptied, and it was pretty heated. And then right after that, a little bit after that, Pete Carroll actually halted practice for a little bit, brought everybody to the center of the field. Bobby Wagner told me later that he told them, let's remember why we're here, let's stay focused. However, there was more fighting, more at least verbal fighting or altercations afterward between Earl Thomas and Doug Baldwin, who shouted at each other and had to be restrained from going after each other. And by the end of practice, everyone had calmed down. Sherman and Bates talked it out. Harvin actually went and stood with the defensive backs later and was laughing with Sherman. And they all said afterwards, it's just sometimes in practice things get heated, and we get fired up.
Terry, clearly Pete Carroll doesn't want anybody to get hurt, but how much does he view this as kind of a positive in a sense? They are the defending Super Bowl champs. They have the target on their backs going into this season, but yet they still have this high competitive nature where they're going to even go at it with each other on both sides of the ball, and that, in a sense, gives Carroll a sense that this team is ready to defend its title.
Well, it's no secret, Jim, that coaches occasionally like to see players get fired up at practice. So obviously, of course, they don't want to see anyone get hurt. But in this particular case, he's been saying all along that this team has remained focused, that they're not going to get soft. They're not going to say rest on their laurels, so to speak, and think that, we won a Super Bowl, that's all we want. The players have said that all along. And maybe today was a sign to everyone that they mean it, that they really are still serious about continuing to play at a high level, continuing to compete, continuing to play aggressively even in practice, which they always have. And a lot of the players told me afterwards that it was a good thing. I mean, Byron Maxwell, the other cornerback, said he loved it. He said, this is what we need. He said, I just thought it was fantastic. It was beautiful, he said. So, I think the players realize, every now and then if things get a little heated, maybe that's a good thing. It just shows a competitive nature. However, for it to happen at minicamp where there's really not supposed to be any serious contact,
right.
It can be dangerous. Guys can get hurt. And Brian Walters did get hurt, not from the fight. But that's what coaches don't want. They want everybody to try and stay healthy in these workouts. And when you have that, when it gets that heated, there's a bigger chance that someone could get injured.
Yeah, no telling what's in store for training camp. Terry Blount covers the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks for ESPN.com. Terry, thanks for the insight.
No problem.
Again, the Seahawks' tempers flaring, the fuses short at minicamp with several fights breaking out at practice. You can read more about this story right here on ESPN.com. With the latest ESPN headlines, I'm Jim Basketball.